And I really was so afraid at the time to like face and really say out loud, you know, and be accountable because I was so in that victim stance for so long.
I know this is my path. I know this is what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah, our faith was so strong.
Welcome to Recovery Soapbox, sponsored by Brighton Recovery Center. I am Alisa Wood with
Lacey Garcia.
And today I am very, very honored and excited and so very grateful to have my very dear friend and colleague and just another strong, proud woman in recovery, Lisa Walker. Visionary therapist and LCSW and founder of Full Circle Healing. And we'll get into much more of that. First of all, thank you to our listeners. If you like what you hear and hopefully hear something that brings you hope and that resonates with you, please subscribe, share, follow us on iTunes, Stitcher, Google. We're not that hard to find. So let's just go ahead and dive right in. I'm very excited for today's guest. I personally have had the honor and just such a blessing. Where do I even start with you? I've personally had the honor of walking this path of recovery with Lisa for 11 years now. Mm-hmm. From the very, very beginning. Mm-hmm. I'm already getting emotional. I wasn't expecting to get this emotional this fast. But this is what, for me, this is why I wanted to bring Lisa and share our connection and our connection. But I know that I'm not the only one that has had this amazing connection with Lisa Walker. And the positive ripples and contributions that she brings to the recovery community are beautiful and inspiring, to say the least. And I'll let her share her own story. But Lisa, I just want to take a moment as we start. Again, I want to thank you. I know you're a busy woman and have a lot to show up for in life today because of recovery. And so thank you for taking the time to be here.
You're welcome. Just so honored to come and chat with you guys. So thank you. Yes. And thank you for the beautiful introduction. I just love you.
Thank you. I just love you too. So I think can we just start with hearing a little bit about your personal story, what it was like, what it's like now, just what you're willing to share.
Okay.
And then we'll kind of take off from there. Mm-hmm. Lace, do you have anything?
No, I'm just really glad that you're here. I'm glad to be able to do this. Like, this is the cool part of my job that I love so much. Not that the rest isn't cool, but and I don't know a whole lot. I know you spoke at my women's group a couple years back, and I got to hear your story then. So I'm excited to learn more about you, and I'm just really happy that you're here.
Thanks, Lacey.
Yes. So
thanks.
Thanks, Lace.
All right. I'm not really sure where to start. I guess I can just start with the fact that I have been in long-term recovery since December 22nd of 2005, and for that I am very, very grateful and just blessed to be able to say that. A little bit about me. I was raised on the East Coast. I'm from a huge family. I have 7 siblings, 4 sisters and 3 brothers. My parents were actually converts to the LDS Church, so I was kind of an outlier there as far as religions go. I feel like I'm having a hard time hearing myself. Is it fine or? Good. Okay. And so was raised there and just have 2 great parents and a wonderful childhood. And that's a funny thing, right? Because once you're in recovery for a time, you can kind of reframe and see your whole life for what it is and for, what your parents have done for you and all of that. So it's really just a wonderful place to grow up and to be. As a little one, I was really shy. I was the fourth. I was a middle child, so me and my brother shared the middle spot together, and we both have had issues with substance use disorder, and so we were kind of the big rebels in the family.
You? Rebel?
Yeah, I know. Really? I know.
What?
Go figure. I use it for positive now. I'm still a rebel.
Rebel for good. Yeah. Right?
Yep.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah. So, in the 5th grade is when I started to try to kind of learn how to manipulate the system. So every other Thursday, I would go down to the nurse's station or just try and stay home or fake sick because I'd be so nervous and so afraid of doing an oral book report. Mm-hmm. And so at that young of an age, I just knew I didn't feel safe to be seen, and was just very fearful of people and what they may think. And I was a lot up in my head. And because I was so up in my head, I feel like I missed out on a lot of learning. Mm-hmm. So that really kind of continued from that point on. And then what happened around junior high is that I got really angry. And I couldn't really figure out why. Still looking back, I'm not even really sure what that was really all about. And then that's when it started with the therapist and being medicated and diagnosed as bipolar and, put on lithium. And then it just made me even more pissed, And I mentioned that we were converts to the church, and that's just because the church had a big input or, impact on my life. And it didn't make me feel safe or make me feel good. So in that way, I was kind of also felt like an outlier from my family. So, so really I was just kind of pissed, that junior high didn't want to go to church, on Sundays and then on Tuesdays and, all that kind of stuff. And so, and really had kind of already felt so unworthy that, I didn't even think that I could be a part of it. So, and I talk to a lot of women, now that, can kind of be the same case. And so what I did is, looking back, is I kind of went completely the opposite the other way. It's I've already done these few things, which may have even been something as small as drinking soda, because that just really wasn't allowed in my house. And so I went the complete opposite other way. I like to drink, right from the get-go. I was thinking about it earlier this week, and I'm like what even made me pick up that first cigarette, so young, and then like it and then keep doing it, because they're kind of disgusting, right? So and so that was a little bit about how it was for me, junior high school. I had a huge group of friends, some that I still keep in contact with, and that's what we did. We were the partiers, we drank and didn't go to school. I never made it through a full year of high school, which was really kind of a detriment later, to miss out on all that socialization and that learning. And so, but my parents were great. They'd put me in summer school. They'd get me and my brother tutors, so I ended up with some credits. Mm-hmm. And then my senior year of high school, my parents actually decided to move out here to Utah. And they brought us all with them. And so my dad had retired early. Some of my siblings had already come out here to go to school. Mm-hmm. And, it is Zion. So they brought us out here. And what a great decision, because I wouldn't want to be anywhere else, but here. And a lot of the people that I grew up with are, heavily addicted to, heroin and opiates. And, quite a few have lost their lives. And so it was really, really a great move for us. But wherever you go, there you are, Yeah. And so eventually, things got worse. So my entire 20s consists of being a Hooters girl. I had some kids in there along the way, and I got married. And, the thing with me is that I was always trying to do something different and do something better. And I just never could gain any traction, And my relationship at that time was toxic, so it would be this, a fight, or I'd start a fight just to go out, and it just got worse and worse over time, For a lot of years I drank and snorted cocaine. And that went on for a long time. And I really hit my bottom, though, when I started smoking meth. And that took less than a year. And, I didn't know people that went to rehab or, about the rooms of recovery or anything like that. At that point I was, just really out of my element. I mean, I would hang out with anybody. It went from like VIP to like, crack house, meth house, whatever. I was hanging out with some bikers that probably weren't that safe, and just a lot of, different places that probably really weren't safe for me. Well, they weren't safe for me. And some things that were hard about that time is that time kept going by, and I saw other people kind of like getting a life and moving on, and like here I was. We'd get an apartment for a little while, and then we'd be back in my parents' basement, and then we'd get out, and just all that back and forth. My parents really, now I'm going to get emotional, they raised my daughter.
What's coming up around saying that right now?
It's like that little piece of like guilt that just never goes away, no matter how much work you do, or no matter how much you show up right here, right now, today. So she was 9. She was 9 when I got sober, and my son was 3. And she remembers.
And not that I want to jump forward too much, because I'll let you get there, but one thing that I've absolutely loved and honored about watching you is watching you rebuild your family. Because I see a woman who is a beautiful, amazing mom and wife today.
It is my most proud accomplishment.
Absolutely. And the family and who I know today is not that. And I love that you, even, 11 years into this journey, that pain is still there, and we can acknowledge it and feel it together.
Yeah. And that's what I love about this and the friendships and the, what I have with women is because, none of this have I had to do alone.
Yeah.
Yeah. We carry that weight together. So, thank you for saying that.
Thank you for, as you always are, being vulnerable and raw and real. Because I know for me, that's the only way I've been able to do this thing. Right?
Yeah. And the honesty with self and with others.
And it makes it okay. Like, I know that, like, peace that you're talking about, like, no matter what you do, or no matter how much work you do on it, or how much you talk about it, like, it just, just that little tiny in there.
Because I would change it if I could.
Right. Yeah. Right. And I think talking about it and, like, being okay to have a conversation about it and the emotion coming out, like, it's okay for other people to feel that and know, like, that they're not bad, or to have that guilt, or a little bit of, and that if we could change it, we would, but it's there, it's part of us, and I think it makes us all better.
And we can still live happy, joyous, and free with it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think there's something very powerful, I think, for all of us. I mean, I can't speak for everybody or anybody else but myself, but I think we've all done a lot of things that we wouldn't have otherwise done.
Yeah.
As a result of, of our addiction. And when, I know for me, I crossed a lot of lines, and I did a lot of things with a lot of people that I wouldn't have otherwise done. And I absolutely compromised myself. And there's still things to this day that I think about, and I get ashamed of. but then I get to be here with women like you, and I get to remember that that's not.
It doesn't overpower us like it once did. At least it doesn't overpower me like it once did, you know? And I think it's so important to talk about that because I think, you know, especially for women, I mean, I guess for men too, but I mean, I love women. So that's what we're talking about right now.
That is why we're here.
And I think that that's a major barrier to really gaining traction or, you know, getting clean and sober, right? Is because then I'm going to have to face all that shit that, you know, I don't know if I can face that. Yeah. I see that every day in my work, you know?
Absolutely. So, but to kind of shift gears a little bit, I know I kind of took us down a little path, and thank you for going there with me.
Thank you.
But to come back to your story and...
because...
just go back to there.
Yeah, once meth starts, it gets over pretty quick. So
it's my story as well. Absolutely.
And I'm grateful for that because that's not true for everybody, you know?
Yeah.
So, So my kids, they were 9 and 3 when I got sober. And so, you know, some of those final moments or like the fact that I'd finally built up like enough shame to actually, you know, because that can be used for a force for change, right? And you know, there's just nothing worse in those final days of, you know, just turning off your cell phone because your child continues to call you over and over again, you know, or your mom's calling because, you know, my daughter was there with her and really just kind of expecting other people to do that. You know, I really kind of expected that at the time too, you know, like there's this way that we can compartmentalize where it's not that bad. I'm just not that bad, you know? And, somehow I was owed that or deserved to be able to go out and do what I needed to do because if you were me and felt like I did, then you would have to get loaded all the time too, you know? And so, it was winter and, you know, at this house that, you know, there was 3 bathrooms, none of them were working by the end of it all. I mean, just gross, you know? And, Thanksgiving. And I can remember making an entire turkey dinner and having it ready at like 1 a.m. You know, everybody just so high. And the
perfect time for Thanksgiving dinner.
Totally, you know, and like the kids were there.
Dinner.
You know, and I was so offended when nobody ate, right? Because why would we eat? Didn't eat, you know?
Just, speaking of that little twinge, like, so remember that, like, not even being able to think about chewing a piece of food.
No.
Because it was just so, being so,
unappetizing.
Yeah, unappetizing.
But very thoughtful of you to make
it. Right? I know. I always look back at that and think, what in the hell? I mean, had the full spread out, you know?
1 a.m.
And it was totally normal. Like, you know, like our reality, that just becomes our reality, you know? And I'm thinking like, oh, what's my parents' problem, you know? Because I didn't really have any, like, they knew way too much, you know? I would bring people over and they knew way too much. So they just, there she goes again. And then the next day, I remember everybody went to my sister's house for Thanksgiving that year. And I actually just went down in her room and fell asleep on her bed. It's a lot of holidays like that, you know, even if I was there, not really present, you know, and I was always by the next holiday or next year, like it was going to be different. Somehow I was going to do something different. Kylie, my daughter,
so remember that.
Her 5th birthday, that was a summer that I did a geographic and actually went back to Boston. Her biological father lives back there and I have a close relationship with his parents. So we had her little birthday party, rented the whole bounce house, the whole thing. But again, cocaine, you know, and out all night. So the next thing you know, they find me in the bounce house passed out for her 5th birthday party, and I've invited like 50 people, you know, and it's just those instances where it's just like that, that can't be normal, you know?
Right.
But still find a way to, it certainly wasn't a bottom for me,
right.
You know?
Right.
Find a way to justify it, or I haven't drank for 30 days now, like things are better.
Right. And that was...
I could do that.
I can relate to that story as well. Like, it was, for me, it was always switching one for another, right? And I could always try to justify it because, I hadn't drank for 30 days. but I'd been smoking weed every day and taking pills, or
Right.
like it was always the next thing, and it was always one means of trying to control it. And it was like, it's almost like that game with like the puppets that pop out and you like bop 'em
Whack-a-mole.
yeah. Right, it's like you hit one and then 3 more pop up. And that was kind of like the story of my use also. Is it's like I try to contain it and manage it over here, and then 3 other shitstorms would pop up, and then I'd get one contained, and then it was this one over here. So,
And then you get to the point of just not even trying to contain it anymore.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
And
then it's-
whatever
yeah.
happens.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The consequences are worth it almost. Like in your head at the time. Like, I'm just going to do this and I'll worry about it later when it happens.
Yeah, I'm not even, why even try?
Yeah. Just, I can't
And
control
then
it. So
a complete tornado.
balls to the wall.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you know.
Yep.
But Lisa, if I can, to go back to something that you said kind of earlier on, that that I've been thinking about, is you always had the best of intentions, right? And I feel like, you know, that it's easy to lose sight of that when we're watching someone suffering from addiction. That, like, because I know for me, I can relate to that too. Like, I always had the best of intentions, right? But even the best of my intentions, like, it always fell short. And it wasn't that I didn't want to show up for my family. It wasn't that I didn't want to show up for work. It was that at that time, in that moment, I mentally, physically, emotionally, literally could not.
And I'm getting really emotional just hearing you say that, because it's the case, and it's so powerless.
Yeah. Like, I so remember days, like, just hiding from the world. I remember vividly multiple times. I was, like, renting a basement apartment at the time, about to get evicted, because, of course, I hadn't paid rent in months. And luckily, this was a former coworker that was generous and letting me still crash there. But I, had been on a meth run for several days, and by that point was crashing hard, and was extremely suicidal and just wanting to hide from the world. And I so remember that feeling, and I don't want to forget that, but I remember, like, laying there trying to pull the sheets, or the sheets over my head, just wanting to completely shut out the world. Meanwhile, people from my work had, like, come because I hadn't shown up for days. I wasn't returning phone calls. I had literally just vanished and disappeared. And these people were, like, genuinely concerned and afraid of my, just afraid for my life. But yet at the time, I thought nobody cared. Nobody would notice if I was gone, right? And yet here these people are showing up, banging on my window, banging on my door, literally about ready to break down the door because they knew I was there. And I just laid there the whole time.
I'm so glad that you,
shutting them out in my own hell.
Yeah.
But so desperately wanting something different, but not knowing how to even allow these people who are trying to come in to let them in,
Yeah.
And I remember that, and it's this, like, physical but, like, metaphorical example
barrier,
of, like, that barrier
impenetrable,
that was there, So I just kind of wanted to come back to that, because I think that's so powerful, and we forget that when, it's easy to sit on the outside looking in and watching someone suffering, not showing up to work and not showing up to life and not showing up to relationships, and think that, they're just making bad choices.
They don't care.
They don't care. If they really cared about me, they wouldn't do this. And that's so not the truth, and so not the case.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, that's such a great point. I'm glad you brought that up, you know, because there wasn't a lack of love around me, you know what I mean? But I really had a real inability to receive it for whatever reason.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what was the turning point for you, or what was, if there was like a moment or a series of moments, what shifted and catapulted you into recovery?
Yeah. You know, I think it was really more of a moment. It was more of a moment, and it wasn't anything. It was a series of days all put together, you know. You know, I think it's important to say I didn't use every day, you know, and there was times where I'd be home for a week or two and I could do that. And then like, I was just this major binge user, you know, and I think this particular time it had just gotten a little bit too long, you know, and really just got to the point where, you know, there's different deaths that we experience, you know, there's spiritual, mental, emotional, physical. And the turning point for me is when I knew that I was going to physically die if I didn't do something else. And so that was the turning point, and I didn't know what to do, but I knew I needed something permanent. And so I was hanging out, you know, with this friend of mine, and ended up in the ER. And I have an older brother with some mental health issues, and I knew about uni and that kind of thing, and I was just like begging for somebody to admit me. But my husband at this point was so tired of my shit that he had taken me off his insurance. I didn't live with him anymore, so I really didn't have any resources. And so I remember the guy at the ER, he brought down some paper to the guy I was with, and it was kind of about like how you can't get anybody else sober, you know? Yeah. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. But he did tell us about the VOA. VOA Women's and Children was around then, but I didn't know about it. And so what I did was just for the next 3 days, I just called every day to the VOA detox until there was a women's bed open. Yeah. And I went in. And that was December 22nd of 2005. And really haven't had to look back. So that was really the turning point for me, is that I was like, wow, this is going to kill me. I don't even, it could have been an irrational meth psychosis, but I was scared, really scared.
Enough to induce or elicit that moment of clarity. Yeah. And that moment of willingness.
Yep. I think I could have gone on drinking for a long time.
Yeah.
If that hadn't happened, you know.
So how long were you at the VOA?
I stayed at the VOA for 2 weeks. So, and that's how long you need to stay to get an assessment or a referral. So I got my assessment and referral, and then I did the outpatient for 3 months. So 3-4 months. And that was kind of awesome because that was the first thing I had completed in a very, I don't know, I kind of want to say ever. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was like my first big accomplishment. And I felt pretty damn good about it. For the follow through and for the showing up and I think at this time my family was just kind of like, she just has emotional problems, like she's not an addict or like one of those people, you know?
Right.
Yeah. So there wasn't any like family therapy or anything like that. So, but yeah.
So how did you repair those relationships, or were they even that damaged?
I think that they were pretty damaged, and maybe even if not from their view, for sure from mine, because everything I did, it was like I've just kept this list and this score, you know, because not only am I not good with God, like I'm not good with anybody around me. And so so I got introduced to 12-step recovery while I was in detox, and I went to every meeting in the beginning. That's where I met Alisa, which we'll have to get back to that. But and you know, immediately I was kind of given a sponsor and worked the steps, and you know, the 12 steps are absolutely the foundation, the backbone to my life. And so once I got to a 9th step, my most impactful amends were with my family.
Yeah.
As I said, I have 7 siblings, right? And like my kids monopolized my parents' time because I couldn't take care of them. I mean, you know, my husband took care of them too, right? But I mean, I had a lot of guilt and shame about that. And so my oldest brother, sitting down and making amends with him, that was a big deal. I was projecting that self-hate. But to find out that, like, your family doesn't actually feel the same way about you as you feel about you, is powerful. And so got a lot of freedom through the 9-step amends, and, and with my parents as well. I mean, they're amazing. They just want us all to do well. And so I did it through that by just continuing to show up, and, I got really excited about it, So, like, I was a rebel, in the shadow or whatever you want to call it, but then also in the light. So I was taking everybody with me, and, like, wanted, everybody around me to recover or have a better life or whatever. I mean, I started a family joke, and that was, Mom, you never told me that, you didn't tell us that you loved us or that you were, like, proud of us, but that's just not how they were raised, So it started out as a joke, and now to this day, I mean, that's what the whole, especially my sisters and my mom, it's like, I love you and I'm so proud of you, and, like, we mean it,
That's sweet.
And that's really cool. So yeah, a lot came from those amends and having the opportunity to heal that. Nobody should not do that,
Right.
Yeah, it's a huge part. Huge. Huge. So big.
So fighting it. Huge. You just. We're not going there. No. That's a whole. Anyway.
I think that's good, though. I think that's a lot of the times people in early recovery, or when they're just getting sober, like, they think, like, how am I ever going to repair these relationships? Yeah. Or, like, I've done so much damage. Like, my parents hate me, or my brother hasn't spoken to me in over, And I experienced those same things. Like, I had a really hard time. My brother and dad just didn't really want anything to do with me by the time I got sober. My poor mom was stuck in the middle. But I lived at my parents' house for the first, 6 months, 7 months I was sober. And I don't think for the first 3 months I was there, my dad said a word to me. And so, but it was like showing up and showing that to them and proving to them, like, that this is what I want. And that was, I just had to be patient with that. And, but thank you for touching on that, because I think that is important. It's just part of the process. And for me too, the 12 steps and the 9th step was huge in that aspect of kind of being able to clear that up. Yeah. And I really was so afraid at the time to, like, face and really say out loud, and be accountable, because I was so in that victim stance for so long, So yeah, it's a big deal.
It is a big deal.
It was worth the risk, though. I mean, that's the courage,
Yeah.
And something that still, like, sticks out to me today is, hearing, and I can't remember where it came from, or I think I have an idea. Anyway, hearing someone talk about, if you want self-esteem, you have to do esteemable acts.
Yeah.
Right? And so it was, as much as I thought some of those relationships were beyond repair and hopeless, it was just by continuing to suit up and show up, so to speak, and to let my actions speak louder than words for the first time. Because I had always done this, right? I had always talked, and again, I had the best of intentions, but could never follow it up with, I like how you put it, I could never gain the traction, in the footwork, to really get a forward movement. But by just suiting up and showing up and doing, showing up to commitments, whether that be a service commitment or work or family or whatever, by doing those things, like, not suddenly, it was like a slow process, but I started to realize, like, I can keep my word. Like, I can have integrity. I can, whereas before I had no idea what those things even were.
Those are the miracles. I mean, that was a miracle every time, I could be honest, or
totally, and I think, for me, that kind of brings me to my next question, is how, because it's extremely important to repair those relationships with those around us also. But for myself personally, what was also crucial and critical, and still is repairing that relationship with myself.
Yeah, absolutely.
So can both of you ladies actually speak to how, like what that process started to look like for you, or how you started to repair that with you?
Okay.
It's a loaded question.
It is a loaded question.
Ah.
I'm like, well, at about 5 years.
It did. It came much later into
That's where I'm at.
into the journey. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's really kind of okay, right? Because all the other stuff
Totally.
that you were just talking about, like the little miracles that just kind of keep us going, right? Until, you know, we get that new awareness that, you know, I mean, I think my sponsor told me to put me on my first, like, 5th step or 4th step, right? But whatever. Like, I'm not even worried about that right now. You know, it's hard to take that all in. But
Totally.
now in my life, that's huge. And I've had some great mentors with that self-care, you know, which is kind of what I hear you talking about, right?
Yeah. Totally.
And I spent some money. Therapy. Everybody should do therapy at some point, you know?
Everybody.
Yeah, everybody. Yeah. Just, and saying yes to ourselves.
Yeah.
You know, I think learning the tools to, you know, be able to say no and not overextend and that kind of thing. Like that really showed, you know, that comes up in self-care for me.
Totally.
So I don't really know how to answer that exactly, but you know, when I started to do that, but I think it just comes over time. And then since then, have done so much more of that inner work, you know, with various people in the community, you know, with spiritual life coach and with a shaman and, you know, and different things like that.
Yeah.
For me, like, I keep seeking that because I love it.
Yeah.
The more I seek, the more I have to offer.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And for me, like, I know, and again, I'm just speaking for myself, but in my own process, in my own journey, I don't, and I can't get stagnant. Right. So it's continuing to progress and evolve and seek that contentment within myself. You know, because today I have that, at least enough insight and awareness to realize and accept that that's actually what I was looking for with drugs and alcohol, you know, was that inner contentment and just being okay in my own skin. You know, before alcohol entered the picture for me at age 12, I never had that. And that almost instantly became my solution.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
So
I can really relate with that.
yeah. Yeah.
I think for me, like, I'm to the point where Lisa was talking about. So I'm in my 5th year. And I think for the first little bit, it was about, like, saying yes to everything and being a part of and showing up for everyone and, you know,
Totally.
Spreading myself very thin and being of service and, you know, all of the things that I learned in the beginning. And then this year has felt completely different to me. And I've heard that from other, you know, women in the program or people in the program that, like, 5 is a little different. And everyone I talk to about gives me that same look that Lisa just gave me. That, like, and I think this is, like, you know, for the last year, like, I got back into therapy. And, you know, I feel, and I've talked about this in other podcasts like that, I feel myself shifting big time. And so I'm learning, you know, to love myself and to say no and to be okay with sitting on the couch and be okay with doing nothing and not feeling like I have to run myself ragged or I'm going to miss out on something or I'm going to hurt someone's feelings or
that just gives me a little bit of anxiety just to hear you say that because I just, a lot of my, even, in recovery, right? I ran my life like that.
Yeah.
And it's exhausting.
It
And
is.
burnout and compassion fatigue. I mean, it's a real thing.
Right.
is.
And then it makes me, it's like, yeah, that compassion, it's like, the more I do and the more that I feel like I have to like spread myself so thin, and I'm saying yes to things I don't want to say yes to instead of saying yes to things that I do want to do. Yeah, it gives me anxiety. Like it's exhausting.
Yeah.
It is.
And so, I've really had to pull back a lot. And
That's beautiful. And that takes courage too.
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah. And now I say yes to things like that I want to say yes to, and then I enjoy them instead of standing there resentful at everyone around me because I said yes when I didn't really want to say yes. And it's more of like doing things out of love and not fear. The fear of no one's going to like me if I don't do this, or I'm going to miss out on this, or I already told this person yes, so I can't back out now. And it's like, nah.
Yeah. Yep. You brought up that fear, and I mean, fear can
and that's
rule
what it is. It's
Yeah.
fear. It's fear of, like making decisions out of fear
Yep.
instead of love or love for yourself, or, because you genuinely want to do it. So.
And people don't really like it either when you start to say no, and, I mean, hopefully for the most part, people don't like it when we change.
Right. When we start to change and we start to set those boundaries. And Lacey, thank you for that.
And I think it's hard too, real quick before we move on, I think it's hard too because for me, because I've been so involved in the recovery community and all that I do, and that I feel like I have something to uphold. I have to uphold this image of being there for everyone, and showing up to everything, and being this kind, loving person in the community. And this last year with the anxiety that I've gotten and the things I've been going on with with myself, I just can't uphold it anymore. And for a long time I really tried, really tried to just, it's okay, Lacey, just get through this, and now it's no, you take care of yourself and it doesn't matter. But that's scary. That's scary to walk away from what you think you should be.
Yeah, it is really scary.
What you've taught others to think you should be.
Right.
And I'm speaking from personal experience too, right? And I think that these are important conversations to have. And I don't for one second want to say that not giving back and not being of service, or that those things are not important, because they absolutely are. I would not be here today if my first few years hadn't been dedicated to that, right?
Absolutely.
And being in just giving back and contributing for the first time in my life, contributing to a community and contributing to something other than myself.
A greater cause.
Yeah, a greater cause. And I did, I needed that in the beginning. And then we get to a point where it gets to shift, right? And I know for me, probably around the same time frame, it was almost I felt like the bottom fell out, right? And it was this emotional, I don't even know how to explain it, just an emotional, blah.
It's oh shit, it's time to do more.
Now what? And now it's oh shit, it's time to do more. Yep. And then it became about
do more or less. For me, it was time to do less.
Right?
Well, it was,
and more for me.
Yeah.
Less for,
less for out here and more in here. And that's really where the internal work really, really started.
And I like what you said, because it absolutely served a purpose.
Yeah.
All of it served such a huge purpose. And I mean, I wouldn't have made it without some of the things that I did.
Yeah.
But that, it's not serving a purpose now.
Yeah.
And I think that's okay.
And I think we're talking about just right now, because I'm in a whole other full circle, because I'm back to, I sponsor a couple women. I'm an area delegate for, the fellowship that I belong to, and I'm chairing our major convention this year. So, I mean, you just never know,
Well, I think it comes full circle.
Yeah.
cycles.
What
worked for the first 90 days. Like, I'm sure I'll come back to that at some point.
At different times.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I like that. It does it. It comes in cycles.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there are absolutely times where my focus does need to be out there to get me out of my head and out of the
And we did
chatter.
that together.
And we absolutely did that together. And I want to get back to that because I absolutely couldn't have done that without you.
It was awesome.
And without our other that, you know, we had our little trio and others, but especially you. You know, I couldn't have made it without that connection, you know, but
Hopefully do you have a friend now that's kind of going through the same thing so that you're kind of like doing it with, or are you just,
Yes.
that's great.
Yeah.
I think that's important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually have a few. Because I think we're all, like, about the same. You know? Like 5 and 6.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. And not so much exactly what I'm feeling, but the shift.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
releasing of
Yeah.
Yeah.
what did serve a purpose may not serve quite the same purpose now. But grateful for the purpose and grateful for the experience. But the shift, definitely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Change. It's what we can count on.
It is. 11 years ago, starting this journey with you. So, a little bit of history. I had been in and out of the program, and it was during one of my outs that Lisa got to come in, yeah, we were talking about this the other day, like trying to remember like that moment or the very beginning, and we can't. But I just remember you've always been there, the whole journey, and I remember calling each other like, "What's going on? What the fuck is wrong with me?" Like just like emotions and stuff and things just like
I had no coping
out
skills, like
all over
none.
the place.
I know.
Right? New Year's Eve parties and howling at the moon and like sitting in the car just chain smoking, staying up all night and just talking about life. But like
Lots of energy drinks.
Lots of energy drinks, lots of coffee. Like, but I look back on those times and I absolutely cherish those times.
Those are the sweetest, most humblest of times
Totally.
for me.
Me too. We had nothing. Nothing. Like literally nothing. And humble beginnings from Fellowship Hall. You know?
I've kind of turned into a snob now, you know, and I don't, you know, as least as possible. My ego's gotten bigger, I think, since being in recovery.
Mine too, a little bit.
It's a lot of like where you came from.
It's a lot to handle.
Yeah.
It's a lot to handle sometimes.
It's like now I care about what kind of water I drink.
Right?
Before I was like using
not
water out of the
acceptable.
toilet. Neil,
Right?
Evian, please.
Or Fiji. Fiji's okay too. Sparkling, even better. But right? Like luxury problems. Like the things I complain about in my life today are absolutely...
Like being so busy.
Like being so
All
busy.
I ever wanted to do was matter,
Right?
or people would miss me when I'm not there, you know, and I feel like I have that today.
Right? You know, like we've got to walk through school, like going back to school, all of those initial fears of, oh my God, what am I doing?
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God, I failed in school before. What is this going to be like? What do I want to be when I grow up? What do I want it to look like? All of those pieces that, you know, we didn't and still don't have all of the answers to, but...
Yeah. Do you remember we had a fundraiser? We had a
I
big
was
ass
just
spaghetti
going to
dinner.
say that. You got to it before. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But no, tell
We had
the
a
story.
spaghetti dinner because we needed to raise funds so that Alisa could go and get her sudsy. I don't remember how much it was at the time, but we raised a shit ton of money.
Thousands.
Yeah.
It
Someone
was
cooked
thousands
spaghetti
of dollars.
and you guys invited everyone.
We did it at a park.
We did it at a park.
I love
We had
that.
lots of people from,
I was
from
more
the
humble
fellowship.
then.
It was,
You know?
yeah.
We didn't care. We were just bringing the
Right?
people to the table.
And I just remember, like, I so remember those times and, like, having that, just that immense faith. Like, because that's what you guys taught me.
And I was
Just
really
show
blessed.
up.
Yeah.
And we will make it happen.
Yeah.
Right? And people, like, I'm like, okay, I don't know how this is going to happen, but I'm registering. I'm signing up. I know this is my path. I know this is what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah, our faith was so strong.
So strong.
And I had the luxury of
And-
Voc Rehab helping me,
Yeah.
you know, and that was amazing. And I was like, we're going to figure out how
Right.
this is going to, you know, do
Right.
this. Yeah.
And people rallied, you know.
Yeah. But I do have to say about the first time I saw you in a meeting, because
Okay, please
she was
do.
standing up there at the podium and looking all cute. And I was like, who is this girl? And everybody in here knows her and I don't. And I was like, I needed everybody to know who I was when I was new. I mean, I was a sick girl. I was, hi.
Yeah.
I was telling Alyssa last week, I'd walk in 10 minutes late to every meeting and then be like, hi, you know.
Yeah.
I'm
I can
here.
relate to that.
Oh, God, it was gross.
Right.
Oh, so sad, right? And now when I see it,
Dances.
I'm like, oh.
Or dances.
Yes.
Our dances were off the...
Strippers. We were sober strippers. I mean, we were sober for that.
We were
It's
totally...
embarrassing.
It really is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's the thing
it
about
really
recovery,
is.
too. Like, we used to have to, like, we could blame it on, like, the drugs and the alcohol. And it's like, no.
So the same feeling that you're talking about, like, when you think about on, like, you're using and you're like, ugh, I have plenty of those in early
In
sobriety.
yes.
Where I'm like,
Oh, yeah.
ugh.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Could try and block
And
that
I'm
out.
sober.
I
Yeah.
forget what I was talking about. Oh, but I did see you for that
Yeah.
first time. And I was just like, who? And I was like, I'm going to make it a point to know this girl. And so I did. And that was awesome. And you stuck around that time.
I did
That was
too,
it.
yeah.
That was March
That
of
was
2006.
March of 2006.
And then we went to conventions, meeting. All we did was
Yeah.
meetings.
Meetings.
But then we went to school.
We did.
We got cars. We got places to live. It was exciting times.
Yeah.
It was. Like big stuff. You know. On to get a master's degree.
Yes, finally finished my degree in 2014, which was a
And-
huge miracle. It took me 9 years.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I didn't even have my GED when I got sober at 28.
Right.
So,
Right.
yeah. Yep. And I mean,
So-
whew, that and raising, 2 teenagers.
Mm-hmm.
It was insane.
That's
yeah.
so hard.
Yeah, and I had this, like, naive belief that, I'm in recovery, so my kids will just stay away and not experiment with stuff, and, like, that has not been the case, so, yeah, it was a challenge.
Yeah.
But you did that. That's amazing. That's a huge accomplishment.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I don't want you to dismiss that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I want people to hear that, because those are the pieces, those are the miracles that, like, we couldn't even conceive.
No. Oh, no.
Right?
When I got into the undergrad at
no.
the U, after doing SLIC for 3 years, it was, like, did they address this to the right person,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But I just want to emphasize, like, we still don't know what the end result is, you know, and we just get to continue this journey, you know, and it's been absolutely amazing and beautiful and hard and scary and rough and everything in between along the way, but I wouldn't trade it.
Yeah.
you
Oh,
know?
no. Me either.
I wanted to really emphasize the importance of connection, you know, and how paramount that is, I think, in the recovery process.
I was just going to ask the question to follow that up. So what do you feel like recovery is? How would you define recovery?
Recovery for me is the ability to live.
I love that.
Yeah, I feel like it's a great question, and I feel like there's so much surrounding it, and right now, I guess, and I have this beautiful way of just being able to like walk this middle path, you know what I mean? Like I know what it meant to me at year 1 and 5, and like what it means to me now, and for me it's just the ability to live and to do what I want to do and what I know is right.
Yeah.
So
I like that.
I mean,
simple.
If I was in another setting or something and it wasn't just my personal story, then,
Yeah.
But, yeah.
And I think, well, you said something that's important, and I think, like, it's okay to allow it to change and to evolve, For me, it's about emotional recovery, which is but it's, just living and being comfortable in my own skin. Being okay, right?
Like, I mean, I absolutely feel whole.
Yeah.
I feel whole.
Yeah.
And to me, that's recovery.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. And because that's really what the using was about, right? Was just trying to feel something, trying to feel that hole. And the more that I used, the more that I put in, the bigger that hole got.
Yeah.
And it could go on and on. So we're running out of time, and I don't want
I know we need to take 2.
Like we could totally do a take 2 or a follow up. But as we're wrapping up, do you have any questions or last comments or thoughts or
I don't know.
anything in closing?
Any
mean,
questions for us?
Yeah. Oh, a question for you guys?
Or any question.
Okay.
Question for Neil.
Question for Neil. I felt so nervous because Neil has been sitting over there this entire... I feel so self-conscious. I would like to know what you guys feel like has been your biggest accomplishment in the last 10 years. Whether it's a relationship or a goal or...
It's a good question.
You can't cheat. The biggest.
The biggest?
I know this is going to sound so cliche, and like anyone in recovery may say this, but I really feel like my biggest accomplishment was getting sober and staying sober and like creating this life that I have for myself. Like, I mean, like you said, I had no coping skills. I had no idea how to hold a job. I couldn't even make a doctor's appointment. Like, like getting my oil changed seemed like really far-fetched for me.
That's why you
to
have a
figure.
husband.
But I didn't have one of those. And so when, getting sober and like staying sober and learning how to live as an adult and a productive member in society, and I would say not just like an average one, like I really try to be a good human and make good decisions, and I pay my taxes and I work every day, and I have 2 dogs and I take good care of them, and I think that's my biggest accomplishment. And it may or may not be cliche, but
That's
if
reality.
I was a mom or something, that may be
reality.
different, but I think that's my biggest one.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
that is,
Yeah.
and that's beautiful. Yeah. And I would probably actually say the same thing if it had been 10 years, but I'm just outside of that time frame. But I think it still is. Like, really, that still is my biggest accomplishment today, is getting sober and not just getting sober, but doing life.
Right.
Right? Doing life
Like
sober. Like, that is an accomplishment.
Like the fact that I can keep like animals alive.
Yeah.
And like take them to get their shots.
Right?
And like mow the lawn.
Like, care
like,
for another.
It's really domestic. I know.
Like,
I
care
know.
for another living being.
Right.
Right? And buying a house.
Yeah.
And having your dream job. And,
Yeah.
and those are, some of the things that I've been blessed with also.
Yeah.
Right? Being able to have, like, my dream job today. Literally. And being proud of that, and being proud of what I do. But something that came to mind for me is, within the last several years, and maybe it's not like a accomplishment, as in like something that I've acquired, like materialistically, but one of the biggest transitions for me and growing phases for me was after ending a relationship and ending an engagement, and really diving into that journey of self-love. And because I also had to come to realize and accept the fact that even in sobriety, I used relationships and I used men as a distraction, and as another addiction.
Yep.
And my next addiction became, it was a need to be needed.
Yeah. Right.
And this could delve into a whole nother podcast and a whole nother episode that unfortunately we don't have time for today, but delving into the emotional healing and looking at the codependency side of me also, which is a whole nother not so fun.
Everybody should do that work,
package
though.
Yeah,
Totally.
absolutely.
If you're an addict in recovery, you're a
Absolutely.
codependent.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
We gotta
Yep.
do
That
the
work was life changing
Yep.
for me.
We gotta do the work
Absolutely.
around that.
So, I'd say within the last several years, learning to love myself has been the biggest accomplishment.
And it's so evident in how you carry yourself now, and it's pretty beautiful from 11 years ago till now.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So speaking of dream job, before we wrap up, do you want to tell us a little bit about what you do?
Yes.
Yes.
So, I have a private practice. I am an LCSW, and so it's called Full Circle Healing. And, I named it that because, of just so many, I can't even tell you. I could write a book on full circles, that have occurred, and it's awesome, and I love to see them and other people as well. I see people over there, men and women. I see a lot of the alumni from the residential programs that I've worked in, and I just love meeting with people one-on-one and just kind of coaching them. I take a little bits and pieces from everything that I've learned and just kind of incorporate that into my work, and I love working with women, but it's interesting because I do work with a lot of men, so I love what I do there. So I'm so distracted right now, Lacey.
Well, I just was doing something I shouldn't be doing, and it was going like this.
Oh, okay. I'm like,
I was just like this when you were talking, and then I got in trouble. Well, thank you for sharing that with us. And we'll put up your website if you would like us to do that
cool.
when we...
Yeah, that would be great.
Absolutely.
I'm loving it.
In addition to that, sorry to cut you off. Were you? Okay. In addition to that, also big stuff with USARA.
Yeah, working with USARA. That's amazing.
USARA now. Awesome.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I love the entire team.
Yeah.
And I'm having so much fun getting to know them.
Awesome.
And
So what exactly are you doing for them?
I am providing support and supervision for all of the peer recovery coaches.
Cool.
So helping them to, do their own self-care and just have the best tools possible to help the people that we help in the community.
Yeah,
So
which I love that.
yeah.
That's
Because
so
it's
critical.
I think anyone that works in recovery and is in recovery,
Yeah.
needs that extra support.
Yeah. And so
Totally.
it wasn't what I originally started out there to do, and the need was there. And so it's amazing. It's turned out to be more than I could have hoped for. And so
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Again, I can't thank you enough. And Lacey, thank you for
Welcome. Thank
for
you.
being such an amazing co-host, and I just love that we get to share this.
I know, it's so fun.
And you know how cool.
Yeah. I want you
So-
guys both to know that I look up to both of you guys and just love that what you do for the recovery community. And just
Same.
thank you for
Same.
being out there doing that.
And
Same.
the fact that
We
I
do
get
this
to
together.
sit here with two ladies like you and be a part of something like this is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Like a little baby, and just you guys are big women and I'm a little baby.
Come here.
I'll even rock you.
She does.
That was part of my healing work.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
come on
cool,
over
yeah.
here and I'll rock.
But
Cool.
thank you. It's been amazing, ladies. And I
Yeah,
know we could just
thanks.
go on and on as usual.
Yes.
But we will wrap it up for today. So again, listeners, thank you for tuning in, and hopefully you hear something that you related to, resonate with, and can grab a hold of and take with you. So follow us on Stitcher, iTunes, Google, all of those, and stay tuned for the next. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Love you, ladies.
All right.
Love you.
Love you.
Love you.
Over and out.